Right, good evening, everyone, and it is October 13th, and this is the Environmental Sustainability Task Force of Scio Township. Welcome. And are there any additions or revisions to our agenda this evening? Seeing none, will someone move the agenda?
I'll move it.
All right, moved by Charlie, support.
Support.
I'll support it.
Okay, supported by Dana. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, moving on. Next, I think Marty just joined us. Welcome back, Marty. Yes. Let's see, Marty Mayo, and I don't know if Margaret Engel is going to join us tonight or not, but they're coming back. Here comes Tim, coming back to participate, and they're going to, since Celeste has moved, we're going to put both Marty and Margaret on the, here comes Rob back, on the Natural Systems and Food Systems group, since that group kind of is down to wonderful Tim and Janine. And Janine's been really busy with some other things. So Tim, you have Marty Mayo and Margaret Engel to kind of help bolster your group. And so that hopefully that will be helpful, because both of them have quite a bit of, Marty was PC chair, and they've been pretty involved in the land preservations and work. And so I think they'll be very helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. Marty and I just got out of a land preservation meeting. Scio
Oh, great.
Commission meeting, and yeah, we'll be working together on this.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Then the other little communication, Steve DeDose contacted me, and he actually does music and a bunch of things. And he's really interested in helping with sort of the community engagement, and maybe even if we go ahead with some of the event planning. He has evidently a band, and he writes music, a lot of it very politically pointed music. And so he's really interested in engaging his talents with us. So that's kind of fun.
Jan, would you repeat who that was again?
His name is Steve DeDose, D-E-D-O-E-S. Evidently he lives on North Wagner. Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Yep. We don't have any presentations this evening, so I'll just move on to public comment. And I think from the public, we've got Rob. How are you?
Yay! And I have nothing to say.
Okay, well, welcome.
Except I do have one thing. I just talked to Pam, and she sends her regrets that she won't be here tonight, but she'll watch the recording later.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Jen.
I love the idea that you can record things. It's really neat. All right, so then we're moving on. Our C's team is busy at work analyzing all this data. So Anna, are you reporting this evening?
Sure, yeah, sorry, my teammates can't be here. A lot of folks are traveling for fall break, but not a ton of updates from us. So basically, we're going pretty strong on analyzing the data we've collected. We've split into two teams. So one kind of sub team of us have been working on looking at all the interviews that we've done, transcribing those, picking out really useful pieces that we can report on. And then the other kind of sub team has been working on analyzing and presenting the survey data. So right now we're totally on track to have that report ready by early November for you all. We'll also be working on a presentation to present kind of like some of the key points from that report. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for you all today. We're on track. It's all going well.
Mhm. Yeah, so just to kind of fit this all in, what's going to happen is from November 3rd to November 14th, plan on doing some work. We're going to get information, sort of all the synthesis of the survey data and the interview data in order to kind of update and fine tune some of the goals and strategies each of the work groups have created. And then also prepare for the presentation for the boards and commissions meeting on November 14th. So that's going to be sort of a key kind of deliverable. So hopefully no one is vacationing between November 3rd and November 14th.
I am. Jen.
Yes. Uh-oh, Tim goes, smile. Okay, great. Then I'm going to move on, and I want to share what I thought would be most helpful is to put together a PowerPoint framework for the groups to work with. And so I am going to share that now. Okay. Oh, this isn't the right one. Sorry. There we go. Okay. So can you see this okay?
No.
Yep.
Not seeing anything currently.
You're not seeing it yet. Hang on.
It was up for a second and then you said, oops, this isn't the right one. And it went
And
back
then it
down.
was gone.
There it is. Here, no,
Okay.
here it comes. All set.
Okay. All right. It should say Township Environmental Sustainability and Climate Action Plan.
That looks good.
All right. Okay. So part of this is just setting the framework, right? So this is going to be a boards and commissions working session. We want to remind the board that they did pass a climate resolution on July 26th, which is, in doing this, I realized that was a year from the date the Planning Commission appointed the Environmental Task Force, which is, kind of cool, unplanned. Anyway, so the idea that we did pass a climate resolution, and then where have we been? This actually goes back to 2 summer interns that we did. If you remember, they sort of did some research and set sort of the foundation for the task force. Then the task force was appointed. The master plan, and this is really key. The master plan, which was adopted in November of last year, includes the idea that we were developing this environmental sustainability plan that would be incorporated in the master plan. And the master plan is the basis for all the planning and the ordinances, et cetera, in the township. So that's a really important foundation to lay. Next, we got our wonderful Cs team, yay! And they've been working on the community engagement, okay, in the plan development. And then the Board of Trustees adopted the climate resolution. Moving forward, we're going to have this working session with the board and commissions. We're expecting the Resilient Washtenaw Plan to be approved in December of this year. And then
Next year.
Huh?
It looks like December 23.
22, yeah, this year. Thank you. And why am I doing this 23?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right, thank you. Editing on the fly. All right, then one of the things that we're gonna be shooting for is all the budgets get approved about March. So what's going to be important if we have, work that we want to get done on this climate action plan, we are going to need a budget, assigning leadership and responsibility. And I think there needs to be a permanent volunteer group, associated with the plan moving forward, similar to the land preservation group or whatever. So, and then we're hoping we will know probably early December if we get a second U of M C's master project team, and they would continue that community implementation of the plan. And I have to say thank you. The current team has said that they will help recruit. And that goes a long way because, the peer-to-peer kind of recommendations of who to work with and what kind of projects are really interesting and rewarding is very important. So that's sort of looking at the framework setting, if you will, because many of the boards and many commission members may not know, how we started, what we've been doing, and the foundations that we're trying to lay. So, so every working group will have 3 slides because every working group has, probably 5 to 7 minutes to kind of present their major goals and strategies. And if you want to, dovetail some actions. So what I've kind of done is given everyone 3 slides. This is an illustration of energy and buildings. I'm going to add infrastructure to this. And Dana and I don't know if Rose is here. We need to go over this and make sure we're in agreement, but this is sort of my, taking the goals that we've been discussing. The blue is the gold. These are some strategies, and looking at dates and other data, in yellow. So it's kind of easy to say, okay, we need to do energy efficiency. We need to increase renewable energy production. We need to decarbonize the built environment, and that means infrastructure as well as our buildings. And I'm proposing like eliminating and offsetting the use of fossil fuels, just because there are going to be some hard things to totally eliminate fossil fuels, especially maybe in some of our industries. And right now we're relying on generators as opposed to batteries. So I kind of put that in. So this is sort of an idea of, how to present, the major goals and some of the strategies that would support the goals with hopefully some dates. And the goal of this is to get, to build consensus on, the goals and the strategies that will go into the climate action plan. Obviously, the climate action plan needs data to support these goals, and looking at actions and responsibilities and some deadlines and some dollars. So there are a few more steps to keep going to create this plan, but this is sort of building that consensus among the leadership in the township, and supporting this hopefully will be being informed from the surveys and the interviews that the student group has done. So that's energy and buildings, materials and waste. You guys can use your own, whatever, graphics you want. These are not your goals. I've just put in some verbiage so you can, all you have to do is edit and put your own goals in and your strategies in. Okay, so we have transportation and mobility, natural ecosystems and food systems. So everyone has 3 slides, and I'm going down here. Climate resilience, emergency preparedness. And I will put this in the Google Drive. And then this is what I want to discuss here tonight. Implementation. Okay, how do we get this plan to have wheels, right? And we actually need to have an accelerator. So the idea would be is to create a Scio Sustainability Manager Coordinator. And I'm thinking reporting directly to the Board of Trustees with a program budget and, you know, the key responsibility for implementation of the plan through collaboration with Scio staff, commissions, committees, homeowners associations, the county, other city, villages, and townships. Permanently establish a skilled volunteer group. You guys are skilled, by the way, to support implementing the plan, including responsibility for budget development, grant writing, and policy research, and reporting basically to the Sustainability Manager Coordinator. Plans have to have someone who, you know, takes leadership and responsibility. You got to have funding. It's going to be important to build on existing local and regional programs and resources. Oops, sorry, I missed that. Okay, the ambassador program. Galen Hardy, who was in charge of community outreach for the Office of Sustainability for Ann Arbor, has left. Before he left, I had a meeting with him and I said, hey, as far as community outreach goes, what were your most successful programs? And he said, by far was the ambassador program. What the ambassador program is they had an application and it was for anyone in Ann Arbor, and they've actually extended it to outside Ann Arbor, who wanted to be trained in understanding the plan and climate change and all of that. They took a course and they had a cohort. Each person was in charge of identifying and doing a project and then being an advocate for the plan in their neighborhood, in their business, you know, wherever they could. And they actually included from high school all the way up to, you know, retirees. And they tried to get a cross section of people, you know, geographically, ethnically, age-wise.
Come up,
So,
I'll put.
yeah. And he said that was probably it has been the most successful as far as the community engagement. So, and then build on the regional programs and resources, because obviously there's a lot there. We might even, I'm trying to think of future in there as opposed to existing, because I think there are going to be a lot more resources coming out. And then this is our Scio website has, we're only using a little piece of it. It has all sorts of enhancements that can happen, but we don't have anyone that can do it. It can use it that way right now that's been trained on it. We could really have, you know, resource pages. People could sign up for updates through emails. We can also put out, the C's team has put together contacts with a lot of HOAs, neighborhood organizations. We need to use all that, because what's really clear when you look at our building stock analysis is the majority of the square footage, the greenhouse gas emissions, are single family homes or condos. It's you know, the residents that are going to make or break this plan. So being able to connect with the residents is going to be incredibly important. And I think between the resources that Ann Arbor already has, what the county is going to put together, and even the state is putting together a bunch of resources with their My Healthy Climate, and the county. You know, we got the a lot of programs there too. So yeah, I think we're in a really good position to be able to, you know, link to all of those resources. rather than having to create a lot of things ourselves. And then, thinking about it, and I forget which work group was talking about this, about having an event, and we talked a little bit about it. And the more I thought about it, is if we really establish some sort of annual event to both, celebrate how far we've come, what we're doing, who's doing what. It could be, businesses, individuals, recognition for what people are doing. And then also use it as a, an education piece. I was talking to one of the guys that runs the county, like the rain barrels and the native landscaping stuff. And he goes, we were looking out over Scio's parking lot and there's a whole area which looks like it could be transformed into a rain garden. I mean, as a part of the annual event, it should be Jeff Jackson, zero waste. We could do an actual, involve people in doing a native landscape, understanding more about stormwater, all the vendors with solar and so forth. I think it could be a really exciting hands-on kind of event, but anyway, it's a way of celebrating and getting more people involved. So anyway, I want to be quiet, zip, and kind of get your thoughts and reaction, 1 to the framework and 2 to some of the implementation thoughts. Bob.
So did you have, I like the framework and we're going to have to work on it, but did you have somebody in mind for the manager's position? Is there somebody out there who would be a great one?
Absolutely not. I do. I really don't know. Yeah.
Jan, it all sounds great to me.
So whatever you want to do it.
I think even
Yeah.
if we can accomplish only, let's say, 2 or 3 of those points in the next year, then we can call it a definite success, given we're starting pretty much from the ground.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I like
think
it
that-
too, Jan.
Yeah, yeah.
Now a question though, you're gonna put this in, I assume, the main folder on our Google
Yes.
Drive,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just one copy. So as the different groups go in, we're just gonna edit that when
Yeah.
we get a chance to do it.
Would it be
directly.
easier? I mean, I could send you actually a PowerPoint of your sections because it's easy enough to copy and paste. But if it's in the Google Drive, then people can see what other people are doing, which sometimes is
Right.
helpful, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
Okay,
And
Thanks.
and yeah, just don't mess up anybody else's.
well, that's what I was concerned about. Yeah, there is a backup copy, right?
Yeah, I'll save the, you know what, that would be good to go in and, you know what, it would be good if people even, you know, after they go in and save it, save you the portion that you've worked on, maybe, you know, it just in case something happens. And, you know, the transition from when you put it in Google, it comes in Google Slides, so it's a little different. I don't know what it does to the formatting, but yeah, I'll figure that out. If it messes it up, I'll just send out a PDF and people will have to, you know, work on theirs. And when it's at a certain point, maybe upload it or something. But
Okay.
hopefully it won't destroy the formatting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think this is Tim. I
Yeah.
think this is good as well. Is the couple of questions. One, is the skilled volunteer group anything different than this task force?
No. And I
Okay.
don't know if, you know, the Board of Trustees will make it a commission, a committee. You know, obviously certain, if it's a commission, it complies with the Open Meetings Act. And, you know, I think that the status of it, you know, I just think, you know, whoever's going to be the sustainability manager coordinator is going to need a group of people working with them.
Yeah. Okay, and the second one, Jan, is for the manager coordinators there, do you have a timeline in mind and that's part of the budget probably, right?
Correct. So yeah, typically the budget, you know, you have to have the budget, you know, March, April, I think is kind of the budget adoption cycle. So we would need to have that approved, obviously, before, you know, they could hire someone or elevate someone to that position. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have no idea, you know, I haven't prepped this to the BOT or the current manager or anybody doing anything with finance. This is just in this group at this point in time. So when we present it to the boards and commissions, this is sort of, you know, creating another, you know, sort of position and group supporting that position.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So as you and probably others on this call are aware, there's some review going on of financial administration in the township. So it's possible that this would be delayed. I don't know. I wouldn't want to predict that, but
yeah. And, you know, I don't know how other people feel, but hey, I'm willing to keep on working on this as, you know, as long as it takes. So
that's great, Jan.
continue making progress.
All of us here appreciate your leadership and energy that you put into this. Well, long range it's important, Jan.
Yep. And yeah, and obviously we have to, you know, go with the flow a little bit, right? And
Yep.
But I think it's important to get the asks out there of what we think it needs and the priority it has.
Yes. Good.
Okay.
Jan, do you see that being a full-time position?
You know, I don't know. I think it really depends on funding, and it'll be, you know, I'd really be interested in if this is me. Okay, I also think that the township really needs someone who manages, you know, communication and outreach on a broad level. And you know, maybe this could be combined with, you know, some of that too. You know, I leave it, you know, it obviously, if it's full-time, you get a lot more done. You know, I think it could be from a part-time, you know, a part-time to a full-time position.
Or it could be, you know, I mean, this is an ongoing developing project here, and it could start off part-time and develop into a full-time position, or yeah, be taken over by another department. We'll just see.
Yeah, and it could be, you know, there might be another township that, you know, wants to have someone to assist them doing similar things, and, you know, you could share someone and get, you know, some synergy out of that too.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, somebody from the county as well. possibly.
Mhm. Exactly, exactly. Mhm.
Dan, you mentioned that the website needs to be utilized a lot better. Maybe that could be combined with this to begin with.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it'd been, this person I think needs to have, some experience. But there are also, I don't think this is, I think this needs to be someone who has more experience than maybe the state is creating a climate core, which is a Vista related program. But that's typically, you have to have someone who's managing that person, and it's more of a staff enhancement than a leadership position. And this really is more of a leadership position. I'm just trying to think of, other ideas for it. Mhm.
Jan, how much do you think we're gonna get from the county? Because they have that same goal, to get a sustainability manager in place. Do you expect we'd get some assistance from them?
It's going to be interesting. I don't know if, the county doesn't have any direct funding. The question is whether or not the county, this regional authority, could actually access directly federal funds and or the state funds that are going to be administered from the energy office, who, provided that we did get that community energy management grant. There's going to be a load of money coming through the IRA, the IIGA, which is a workforce development, and that's one of the key purposes of this resilience authority that the county's talking about. And Tim, you may know a little bit more about this too, but and it could be that the county may have, through this resilience authority, be able to hire some staffing that could support the townships. I think there may be multiple options here. I think Scio might be able to directly access funding for something like this through the energy office.
Yeah, I know that the county wants to communicate with, provide backup and such for the townships within the county.
Mm-hmm.
There are different governing units, of course, and
Mm-hmm.
funded differently, but I don't think there's a plan to dole out money to the townships. There's 20 townships in the county, and I don't think,
Yeah, 20 some, and different,
so I don't think there's a budget for that. They'd of course have to be equitable among the townships and
Mhm.
so on. But I know that there's a desire to back up the townships with whatever resources are possible to do
Yeah.
that with.
Now, the other thing, we have, some of these lenses down here, the social equity, health, wellness, and education and engagement. And the funding that's coming, a lot of it is developed around, I forget, they have a J40 or something like that, 40% of the funding needs to go to vulnerable communities. And, frankly, that's a little tough for Scio. I mean, Scio definitely can leverage some of the rural dollars associated with that. But I think understanding a little bit more about the statistics and our economic makeup and identifying where the vulnerabilities are in Scio and the vulnerable populations would strengthen any kind of grant proposal. So because that 40% is significant. Mhm.
Jan,
Yeah.
there was also something with the IRA about funding brownfield development. Do we have any others in Scio that have not yet been fixed up?
Yes.
That's a good, somebody put that in the notes, would you? We need to identify I mean, brownfield has a specific definition, and we need to understand better, and we can ask our planners, where the brownfields are. The whole idea of the Gallman Plume being, a Superfund site would be helpful. We certainly could document some ongoing flooding issues, et cetera. But yeah, understanding a little bit more about the funding and how to position ourselves for that is important. Mhm. I think it'll also be interesting to watch how the climate millage goes in Ann Arbor too. I mean, unfortunately, we have some folks that are opposing the land preservation millage based on some of the financial issues going on in Scio. So I hope we can get those straightened out. Because I'll tell you that I did all of you read Will Weber's email or the letter that he sent?
Of course.
Because I thought he did a really good job of talking about and understanding that a lot of these deals, these land preservation deals, are multi-year in the making, and you need that assurance of ongoing funding in order to make those negotiations meaningful. And to me, that he really felt like because it's segregated funds, he's always they've had accurate financial accounting of the land preservation funding. But I can really understand how, and it's the same thing with the solar tax credits and all that. The best thing about the IRA is the length of time. People can count on these programs, and to be effective, you really need to have that long-term vision and not be dependent on year-to-year kind of funding.
Well,
Yeah.
to me, the tragedy is nobody is really opposing the renewal itself.
Mhm.
I mean, I think we've got a pretty solid base of support here. Unfortunately, it's, well, to use a colloquial term, weaponized as a way to get a message across to the board. And I certainly understand the frustration of the residents, because I've been following their threads and the community newsletter as well. And there's a lot of frustrated folks out there. And unfortunately, this is the most visible target for their frustration. And that's a shame.
Well, right, and I mean, people need to realize that the potential costs to the long-term land preservation interests in the township of Scio they could be significant. And the fact that these funds, the millage funds from that go to the Land Preservation Commission are audited yearly. And, they're anybody, any township people have access to the audits, I think. And it's, I'm on the Land Preservation Commission, so I'm of course hoping that the millage is renewed, although I respect and understand the concerns of the people who want to vote no on it and kind of hold it up as a ransom, so to speak. But
Well, Tim, let me just ask you this real quick. You're obviously more knowledgeable about it, this particular item, than I am. But among the concerns that the folks have is that the money could potentially be redirected by the Board of Trustees for other purposes, other projects. And the lack of an audit is one of their biggest concerns right now. It's about the financial situation of the township and lack of transparency. In your opinion, what is the risk of any of these particular funds being redirected for other purposes?
yeah, I don't think they ever have been. We just talked about that in just briefly, but we have records of all of the incoming funds and outgoing expenditures. And I think there's very little chance. It's a dedicated millage there. I've heard, Rob, I think you offered some questions about where the money could be misappropriated, and I don't have the answer to that, but I think it's a valid concern, and it should be answered. And I think the commission will try to do that, either that or the somebody in the trustees. But to answer the question, I think that the funding has never been misappropriated into other directions, and I don't think the Scio Township Board of Trustees has ever dipped into it. And I think there's a very small chance that that would ever happen.
If I could add on to what Tim is saying, and being that when all this happened was during my term as supervisor, I think it would not only be very difficult to use those funds for another purpose, it would be illegal. And I think the group of residents that are having issues seem to not understand that it's not as if the township does not get audited. They get audited in a serious, long, deep audit every single year by state law. So as Tim suggested, I don't think there's been any misappropriating of those funds. There certainly wasn't under my watch, and I would think there hasn't been since. And if there was, I don't see how it would have survived an audit. So I agree with Tim. I don't think there should be a concern there. Certainly the township has some financial issues and some mistakes have been made, and that needs to be cleaned up. But to use this as something to hold them hostage, I don't think is in the best interest of the residents, the entire residency.
Oh, Charlie, I probably agree with you on this particular millage, but my understanding is that right now the township is in violation of state law because they haven't had their audit on time. And the state of Michigan has told them, get on the ball and get it done. And as far as I know, nothing's been done.
Well, Jeff, I think that's a valid concern. I'm sure that, well, I'm not sure, but it should be evident whether that audit is on the way, and has a deadline for being finished. It should be. And I think,
Yeah, Jeff makes a good point. That it is concerning that if they don't meet the audit deadline. But I guess I'm really speaking of previous audits that have been done, and all of those have been extremely clean. So, but you do have a point. You know, there is a concern that this one is having trouble happening. So,
mhm. Yeah,
I did see one concern that went by on, I don't know, next door or something. I'm not sure where I saw it. But somebody expressed the concern that the DDA would collect part of it. And it does occur to me that if you increase, would that happen? Would it go to, I'm sure the DDA would have to be bound by the idea of using it for parks and open spaces, but would some of it go to the DDA because the tax base is increased or the tax rate is increased?
some of what, Kathy?
The income, okay, you got this,
The-
you've got the millage coming in, assuming it passes, the millage comes in, that's increased taxes on every parcel in the township, right?
Right.
Okay, so within the DDA district, would that money go to the DDA? Or,
there are dedicated millages for a number of, services that are going on in the township. And I think that the DDA, there is, Charles, you might have a better answer than what I've got, but I think that there's a very small portion out of each that does go to the DDA.
and would they then be bound by the same rules of how to spend it?
Well, this is the Scio Township DDA you're talking about, right?
Right, right.
So I'm sure that their funding is audited. I mean, I'm talking a little bit out of my head here.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not part of Scio Township administration, but
Yeah, but the DDA funding is, it's a law created by the state. And this is my understanding of the DDA. It's funded through, it's called tax increment financing
right.
and an operating millage. And they capture a certain amount of property taxes on increased value on the properties within the district lines. And so it's only those properties within the DDA, and it is only based on the property values within the DDA.
Okay, so
So
it's not based on the tax rate within the DDA.
no, it doesn't have to do with the tax rate. It has to do with the property values.
Okay,
And it's a specific zone within the township.
I
okay.
can provide a little bit of an answer if.
Yeah,
if
go
you'd like.
ahead, Rob.
We talked about this at the LPC, and it might be called the Headley Act.
Yeah,
That they take 10, basically, it's a complex formula, but it basically ends up about 10% of each millage, both the Parks and Pathways millage and I think the previous LPC millage and now this one, and it goes to the DDA. I'm not sure if there's any control over what the DDA does with the money because they're rather independent of the Scio Township government. I hope that helps.
yeah, they can only, actually, it's the guidelines. That 10% is interesting because I don't know that much about, the millage stuff, because I was only involved in the DDA in Ann Arbor, but you talk about state guidelines, they can't do any maintenance. It can only be capital
Mhm.
improvements.
But that could be rain
They
gardens,
could
right?
build them, they couldn't maintain them.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And in fact, it's interesting, Ann Arbor created the BIZ, which is allowed by a different legislative piece to actually do maintenance, and they're the ones that plant the flowers, do the watering. They do, graffiti cleanup and all that in the DDA, but they tax themselves to do that. Yeah. But that would be, yeah, I hadn't heard that, Rob, that about the DDA getting 10% of those millages. Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with Scio. It's a state law. and
Right,
It's
right.
automatic. So everything's within, the regulations the way it should be.
Mhm.
Yeah, I must have missed that tonight, Rob. It's 10% of all those millages, huh?
David Reed tried to do a Excel spreadsheet of it, and it was way too complex for me. But it's a rather complex algorithm, but it basically works out to be about 10%.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
Is the
that'd be
DDA
that'd be
is the DDA
interesting to dig into.
Do this.
Jan, is the DDA about to be up for renewal?
Mhm. Yeah, I forget when it is. I don't know if I think it's 2024. Yeah,
I see.
and I'm not even sure how that works, whether it's a vote within the district itself, because it's yeah, I don't know enough about it. Marty, do you want to know anything about that?
No, I don't. It never occurred to me to ask when I was on it.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, the DDA has to have a purpose to exist. They can't be there just for the purpose of being there.
Mhm.
What really created the DDA or allowed them to be created was Jackson Boulevard and the fact that there were so many fatalities and serious accidents back when it was a 2 and a 3 lane road. And it was an expression of that need that really led to that formation. But even though they have to have a purpose, they would have to continue on right now because the purpose is to see those bonds paid off for the last phase of the boulevard. So they would have to be around for that purpose, if none other, as I understand it.
Mm.
Charles, is the DDA audited? And if so, by whom? Do you know that?
That is a good question, and I don't recall. It's possible it's part of the overall township audit, but I really don't know.
Mhm.
That is a good question.
Rob, do you know anything about that?
Not a clue. Can't help. Sorry.
Yeah, it'd be, it's interesting because it does talk about tax increment, millage and tax financing. So that'd be an attorney question. I can pose it and see if we can get clarity on it. But as Rob pointed out, it is Michigan law. It's not, it is not, it has nothing to do with other than the township supporting, the creation of a DDA. There isn't any legal maneuvering that can happen. It's pretty much defined at the state level. Okay.
Yeah, I completely remember Rob being correct on that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. So maybe they do get a little bit of the millage, which means we should talk to them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Rob, thank you. We may have another kind of discussion point with the DDA, because I think it was the mobility group. We tried to intervene and get bike racks added to the bus shelters, because they didn't have any bike racks associated with the bus shelters they were putting in, but we were a little too late because everything was bid and in progress. So we're still going to work on that. But if they're getting part of, sort of the land preservation millage and tap millage and so forth, well, they need to ante up to promote some of those things. Thank you. I like that. I learned something perhaps. We'll verify it, but that would be well worth the discussion with them. And maybe I'll talk to David Reed and get his the dollars there. Okay, sorry for that digression, but I think it is important to kind of understand funding, because obviously if we're trying to get a position funded, understanding the budget and working ahead of time with the budget is going to be important. All right.
Indeed.
I'm going to stop sharing then on the format. I will put that in our Google Drive and send you all an email when it's there. So next, are there some updates from any of the groups?
May we talk a little bit about the bus shelters, the bike parking at the bus shelters?
Sure.
Yeah. We did put together, we talked to the whole group about this last time or the time before, I'm not sure, and people seem generally in favor of the idea of trying to get bicycle parking at each of the new bus shelters along Jackson. So we've gone into some research and trying to figure out what the costs would be, because we did miss getting it in with the shelters themselves, as Jan just said. After some research, we found out that the lowest price roughly for everything to just put in a concrete pad with 3 of those hoop structures, the parking hoops that are kind of inverted U's, at each of them for a total of 5 of the racks. That's 6 bicycles to be parked at each. Bottom price that we got, bottom of the range would be $2,560 for all 5 bus shelters. Top price, if we had the same things basically, but with shelters over the bike parking, so that you have kind of a plexiglass aluminum framed shelter covering them from weather and so on. The most expensive option would take us up to $55,000 for all 5 shelters. So depending on what we wanted to ask for, that's kind of your price range of things we need. That does not include, I talked to 2 different manufacturers of the bike racks themselves and the shelters. I talked to a concrete contractor about how much the pads would cost. What I do not have in there is any kind of engineering costs, transport costs for the materials, or installation costs, which I think at least one of the companies would do, but you pay extra for that. I have a whole draft proposal I put together, Jan. I sent it to you the other day, but it was just like yesterday or something. What would be our next step? We've done everything we can think of to do to get it up to this point. Is there anything more we need to do, and where should
I
we go
think what
next?
would be good is we now have a planning commissioner that's going to be our liaison with the DDA.
Okay.
And I think I need to encourage, somehow it's true in most DDAs, and this goes on with Ann Arbor too. There's sort of this love-hate relationship, is to make sure there are representatives of the DDA that come to that boards and commissions on November 14th. But also I will talk with Jeff Heumann, who's our new planning commission member, has agreed to be our representative at the DDA. And I think that would be appropriate. He's also a biker. So definitely would be very comfortable advocating for something like that.
Okay.
And because the DDA does, impact, they do those those projects. I think the other thing that it's good is I'll share it with the planning commission as a whole, but, because as we are looking at our ordinances around, bikes and, emphasizing alternative transport and now the pathways and so forth, making sure that we have adequate storage capacity for bikes is important.
Yeah.
That was the other question that came up at our transportation and mobility meeting. You mentioned at the last meeting that it was important that we get moving on a bicycle parking ordinance of some kind.
Well, we do
Like-
have one. It would be reviewing what we've got
Mhm.
in light of increasing, the use of bikes and so forth. But yeah, we have bike requirements for all new developments.
So should we be moving ahead with researching legislation that forward-looking communities have tried? You know what I mean?
I mean, if you have energy to do it,
Okay.
take our ordinance, what we've got, and look at some other ordinances. That's perfectly
Okay.
welcome to do that.
Okay.
Mhm, mhm. And ours is based on the parking.
Yeah, I think Ann Arbor's is
Part of the
too.
parking, the car parking and the bike parking are kind of formulated similarly.
Mhm. Do we want to get into things like the indoor parking at multifamily housing and that
Yes,
sort of thing? Yes. okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep, and lead requirements are also helpful
Right.
there too.
Yes.
Yeah, because they have
They
good
hit
things
points,
around that.
yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's where I see, both from a planning commission standpoint and the sustainability standpoint, the support group doing research and so forth, because it just helps move policy faster if we have some research. Bob.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
take it off
let's-
mute. I just wanted to say, Kathy, that the Parks group has put in some bike racks, at least at Marshall Park. We now have a bike rack in cement. And so there's maybe a firmer cost that you might be able to get from Anna Cohn, who's the new Parks and
Okay.
Pathways Director.
Okay. And I probably should also send out the draft proposal to all of you guys too. So we'll do that.
Okay.
But I'll check with Anna Cohn.
Okay, I gotta go, Jan. I just wanted to tell you that, and I will be
Okay.
calling you to get more clear on the November meeting coming up with the other commissions and so on. And Marty, I'll talk to you about that too. And,
Yeah, I'd like to meet with Jan to see if we can clarify
yeah,
what our little group is doing.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah, can we set up a meeting?
Okay, I'd be glad to participate.
Mhm.
thanks.
Good.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, we are getting close to our 8:15. Any other groups have anything that they'd like to report?
Oh, it's raining.
Okay, well, just energy and buildings. I wanted to say that we closed out the energy management grant with the state of Michigan. So we successfully completed, we replaced 114 fixtures. We still have to do the lamping. That'll be after the election. And we have several reports. I want to figure out where to post them and how to post those reports. They're very interesting. One is a retro commissioning report on the HVAC systems, and the other one is a report on looking at the replacement of the rooftop units and what electrification of those units and looking at improving the indoor air quality is. So that grant was about $33,000. And then we also got a grant from the 2030 District of 5. So, that was a quick $38,000 worth of really worthwhile information. that the township had. So I forget, the total cost I think was somewhere around 46,000. So the township did have a certain amount, but it was certainly a lot of grants are matching, and this was not. It was a small contribution that the township made to get all of that done. Okay, anything else from materials and waste? Andy, Chief Hood said he had another commitment tonight, so I'm going to catch up with him on the emergency preparedness. But it was great to see that the county resilience plan was talking about establishing resilience hubs throughout the township or the county. And so certainly we need to identify locations within Scio for those. And
What was
there is
that, Jan?
what's that?
I might have interrupted somebody, but I was saying, what was that again that was supposed to be established around the county?
The resilience hubs. And
What is that?
okay, so a resilience hub tends to be a place where in an emergency, people can, it's powered. Oftentimes it's a food distribution center. It can house people. It's sort of a support for people who may not be able to occupy their homes. And there's I think with the Ann Arbor climate millage, I saw a video that they created. They've done them in their Bryant neighborhood in Ann Arbor and Northside. They've put in solar panels, they have battery backup, and they have done, they have coolers and freezers for food, because they're currently food pantries too. And then they have spaces to, if they need to house people in emergency, they can. All right. Anything else from folks? All right, then any other public comment?
No, all good here. Thanks.
Okay, and then you know what? I forgot to distribute the minutes. Oh.
I think I sent them out the first
Okay.
day, so.
Yeah,
I
I forgot
sent
to
them out to
remind
everybody,
people.
yeah.
Does anyone, I know I glanced at them. You always do a really good job with them. So, but then does someone want to move approval of the minutes?
I would move that they be approved.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Support?
And I actually remember reading those now, Kathy. You sent them up shortly after the last
He
one. Gave me
does.
time to forget.
Yeah.
I know.
I support.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, great. Then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you again, Kathy. I usually try and send them out, for the meeting. I forgot. All right, any other announcements? Okay, then look for the email when I upload the format, and I'm glad to meet with any of you all if you want to participate. The other thing, do take a look at the Washtenaw Resilience climate plan, because some of the things that the county is doing, we can kind of piggyback on. Which I think is helpful. So we don't have to, do everything ourselves, but we need to do what works, obviously, for Scio. So with that, anyone have anything else? Well, great. Well, welcome to true fall weather, and thank you, everyone. And yes, Anna, thank you very much. And we're looking forward to the report. And I would recommend that the groups meet, between now and November 3rd to, at least flesh out the presentation. And then November 3rd, we'll get some of the community response and we can kind of tweak, possibly some of the goals or the strategies, maybe prioritize certain of them based on the community feedback that we get. And that'll make it, more incremental as opposed to crashing and burning between November 3rd and November 14th. So try and meet between now and November 3rd and then schedule a meeting between November 3rd and November 14th. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone.
See y'all later.
Thank you.
Take care.
And bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.